We're going to get started. Go ahead, Craig.
All right. Pursuant to a call by Mayor Marilyn Howard, there is a special call to Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting tonight, January the 11th at 5:30 p.m. for the following resolutions and ordinances. Resolution to approve DEGS Consulting, a resolution approving contracting services for Southern Ground Sewer, and the first reading of an ordinance to amend the Manchester Municipal Code relative to impact fees. This was signed by Mayor Howard, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Anderson, Alderman Bellamy, Alderman Hobbs, and Alderman Parsley, and Alderman French was unavailable and did not sign.
Okay, I call this the order. Any citizens' comments at this time? None being said, would you read first resolution?
A resolution to approve DEGS Consulting Services LLC to perform governmental consulting services at a cost not to exceed $72,000, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messick.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Second. The motion has been made and approved for this resolution to hire DEGS Consulting Services. Any comments from the board? If not, call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Messick. Or Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley. Motion carries 4.
A resolution approving contracting services with Southern Ground Sewer LLC, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messick.
Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second to this motion?
I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded that we will approve the contracting services for Southern Ground Sewer. Any comments on this? If not, call the roll, please.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley. Motion carries.
Under ordinances, the first reading of an ordinance to amend Manchester Municipal Code 12401 at SEC relative to building impact fees, sponsored by Vice Mayor Messick. This ordinance was tabled on January the 2nd, 2024, and would require a motion to take it off the table.
Can I jump in right now and just say that this is pretty important, and I really would like for the entire board to be here when we talk about it? Because it's up to y'all. If you want to take it off the table, you can. We'll talk about it tonight. But, I mean, there's two missing. And I just think everybody needs to be in on this.
So should we have a motion and a second before we even?
So somebody has to make a motion to take it off the table if it's going to be talked about and or voted on tonight.
Does it have to be the people that tabled it?
You know, there was some question about that, and I looked at Robert's Rules of Order, and it doesn't require the same person. There's some motions that require the same person, but not that one.
Okay. Well, my thought is, you know, if the ones of us who are here want to discuss it, maybe that could help, because I haven't completely made my mind up on this, you know? So if anybody's got anything to offer.
So we could make a motion to put it on to
We don't have to.
at second, and then we could discuss it. Is that right?
That's correct. If somebody wanted to make a motion to take it off the table and it was seconded, then you can discuss that motion, and along with that motion would be the topic of it. To do that, sure. Without actually having a vote to take it off the table.
Basically, all we're talking about is just discussing it tonight. We're not voting on it tonight.
Well, it would depend on if the motion to take it off the table gets passed.
But, so can I make a motion that we discuss it tonight without a vote? I'd make that motion if I can. I mean, there's 4 people here.
I mean, I understand what Julie's asked, and she'd like some more information.
Yeah.
Just like I-
And I think you can discuss it, sure, it's on the agenda, so you can discuss it before you even, somebody makes a motion to take it off the table.
So you're making that motion?
So, well, can we just discuss it without any kind of a motion?
Yes, you can discuss it without any kind of motion.
So let's just discuss it. That's what we want to do, is talk about it. I'm good with that, if everybody else is.
Okay, but am I thought, now I'm still learning. I thought you make a motion, you second it, that doesn't mean, that's to put it on the table for discussion only.
Making a motion to take it off the table would be to vote on taking it off the table. You
Make
can
a
discuss
motion.
it after the motion.
Okay.
You can make a motion to do that, or you can just discuss before anybody makes a motion. If that is on the agenda, and it is,
Okay.
you can discuss it, if you could open it up for discussion. But
Okay.
that's,
Okay,
So let's just simplify it, let's discuss it.
okay, we'll open it up for discussion. Have at it.
So concerns, what concerns do you have? What do you have, Julie?
Well, I think that Donnie's concerns from the last meeting to make sure that existing residents are not going to have to pay this in the event that something happens to their residents and their rebuilding, I think that's been addressed. So I'm not concerned about that anymore. I'm just concerned mostly about the percentage that we're.
Well, I would like to know, I'd like Lisa to explain to all of us exactly where we got all the figures, what we're going by. Where are we getting these figures? Where are we getting these figures that we're looking at?
So you want to know that, is that what you're asking? Well, I think we put them together in the finance committee, most of them, because of what it would take to generate the income that we wanted to generate.
That's correct, but
But we also took a close look at Rutherford County.
right. But I'm sitting here and I'm looking at, we're talking about $7,624 per dwelling, you know, and we discussed around $1.90-something a square foot.
I think the ordinance says $2.
$2, I think is what we remember. Now, is that just for a single family dwelling? What's going to be the
That's
difference?
multifamily, there's going to be $2. The ordinance, now correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, but the ordinance, I think says $2 for single family and $2 for multifamily. And then there's a schedule for commercial. It's in here somewhere.
Okay, my question is, what category would this fall under? If, I know the difference between going out here and building one single house, but if you have 5 apartments in one dwelling, is that considered one dwelling, or is that 5? Or do we go back to the square footage again?
Well, our impact fees is based on square feet.
So everything is based on,
Everything is based on square feet on ours.
that's correct. For residential,
Yeah.
specifically, you're talking about.
now, but let's say, for example, like a duplex, which is considered commercial because they pay a higher rate. Now, is that for the commercial rate too, and what category does that fall under?
I'm sorry, Alderman, I didn't hear what you said.
Like a duplex apartment, that would be, they pay a commercial rate on their taxes.
They do.
They do?
But that would be a multifamily.
That's, under this ordinance, that would be multifamily.
Okay, so does that fall under the $2 or?
It would be the same, it's $2.
It would be $2.
Now, the ordinance that I put together was based on the discussions I heard at the previous meeting. You know, you don't have to stick to that. So there is no set law that requires certain things. It just has to be reasonably related to the impact the new development's having on the infrastructure of your community. Um, Some folks have talked about doing an impact fee study. That just gives you a backstop that relate, whatever price fee schedule they come up with in these impact studies, it's supposed to give you more justification for the proportionate rate schedule for each type of development. Some cities have square footage, some people do fees per 1,000 square foot. Some people have different fees for institutional versus commercial versus industrial versus warehousing, because those different kinds of buildings may or may not have a different impact on the infrastructure you're looking to fund. I've read through several of these impact studies. Some of them are quite specific. Some impact fees are for particular purposes like fire and police. The one that I heard proposed the other night was obviously the majority of it was for schools, and you've already heard from the city's school director, Dr. Vaughn, about what the future costs were and what projected growth was based in the short term and the long term. He talked about pricing for the additions to certain schools, plus the purchase of property for future growth, potential growth. Of course, we have, future industrial growth here potentially. So all those things considered, I think the finance director went out and finance committee went out and looked at comparable cities and towns and looked at their impact fee schedules and structure and came up with something that's probably reasonable, but it's obviously up to the board to decide what, if any, fee schedule and how it needs to be structured. That's not for your city attorney to determine, it's for the elected officials to determine.
Right. And just because we passed this, doesn't mean we can't change it.
Correct.
These are not chiseled in stone, and the figures we come up with, if y'all want to change them before we vote on it, that's possible too. I mean, nobody's saying that this is what you have to pass, take it or leave it.
Right. And I did some research and came up with the new development definition just to alleviate the concerns about disasters and insurance rehabilitation and those kind of things. I think, and I'm not wedded to that certain definition, but that is a definition that a lot of ordinances use. A lot of places have a maximum fee, and there's one in here, but some cities are not that high.
Well, our industrial, commercial fees considerably less than Rutherford County. And there's no shortage of building in Rutherford County.
And I have done no research on what impact fee studies cost. My guess is they're probably very substantial.
On them, it says typically around 36,000
Okay.
to start.
That I would guess. Yeah.
So does our school board, do they need to do something on their end, like a resolution or something to do with this, or do we do ours first and then they?
Yeah, I don't think they have to do anything. I think this is specifically in city impact fees. They've already presented to you, what they're asking for, and you as a board have already voted to contribute certain things, and now you're just coming up with a reasonable impact fee. If you pass it, then we'll support it. It's obviously not gonna be pay for everything, right? So it's just gonna be one piece of the pie.
Well, one thing that, looking at this with the industrial, that I kind of waffle back and forth on this, and I'm glad we're not voting on this tonight, because when you got industries bring in residential, they also create jobs, they bring people in, so that at 70 cents per square foot, would that keep industry from coming here now?
Well, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead,
I'm looking at the retail commercial here, $5 and something square foot. We had $100,000 square foot grocery store that wanted to come in and build it, they buy $100,000.
That's right.
City.
For building a building.
And the industrial tax is $1 a square foot.
Yeah, that's where I'm so confused. I mean, this.
Well, and this is just an example. This is what Rutherford County does, and obviously.
No, I wouldn't be for that at all.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Alderman. I mean, warehouses and the amount of square footage for a warehouse.
I see that right there, but when you look at this right here, I mean, this is completely off of what we discussed.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
I agree it's off, but I like what we've discussed a lot better than
I do too.
this is.
I do too.
Yeah. So if that same 100,000 square foot grocery store built here, it'd be 70 cents per square foot with a maximum fee of $100,000 versus the $5 and something square foot. Yeah.
but I am looking at the spread of the fees. They spread it out for roads, parks, public safety fees.
I think that impact money,
Uh-huh.
it's basically.
We can do the same thing. It goes in a fund, and if we designate that fund for infrastructure, the board can vote on how that infrastructure fund is spent. I mean, if we want to spend some on roads or some on parks or whatever, I think, correct me, if I'm telling you something wrong, but I think it's right.
Yeah, the way the ordinance is written now, 20% of the money raised from impact fees would go toward other infrastructure, 80% would go toward school projects.
Yeah, but maybe we need to adjust that somehow. Because if you look at it right here on just this chart right here, which I know that is just an example, but it's basically earmarked for two things, and that's for the schools and public safety. They've got it broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And not all the impact fees relate to all the categories either.
Yeah, I know, but see, there's nothing there.
So, yeah, so the retail commercial impact fee goes toward the road, and it goes toward the public safety fee. It doesn't go to part of the school.
Right.
So, I mean, if y'all want to, I got no problem doing whatever y'all want to do. I think the issue is, let's just don't beat this thing to death and let's do something.
I think we got it more confused than we had it right.
Well, this is Rutherford County. Here you're looking at Rutherford County impact fees.
This is just an example.
We haven't
I
changed-
agree.
We haven't changed anything on this.
Yes, I know.
So,
I know, but that's there.
right. That was just an example.
Any comments on how you feel about the $2 for the single unit housing and the multifamily units? I'd like to hear everybody else's opinion of that.
Well, you know, here's what we look at. Here's the matter, truth. We're gonna have to do something, because we're gonna do something to move forward with our schools. We can either do this or do a property tax increase. And I'm not voting for the property tax increase, because I don't think it's fair for the people that live in this community that's lived here all their life to go through what we pay to do. And I think we need to start looking at things like this right here that other counties has got, and move forward. Because we got all this new infrastructure coming in, we got cost.
And I
I'm
don't,
open for suggestions.
I don't think it would hurt the growth we've already had if we'd had impact fee, and we don't have to go through, we didn't have to go through a private act to do it.
Right, our city charter that was passed by private act under section 31 says that the board has the authority to levy and collect impact fees. So we don't have to get special legislation from the Tennessee legislature. And I checked with MTS just to make sure.
I think we're all in agreement that we've got to do something. Just need to do what's right.
If I were a developer, and I could develop 100 acres of land in Rutherford County, or I could develop 100 acres of land in Coffee County, with the same impact fee that Rutherford County's got, I'd come to Coffee County. Because you can buy the land, 100 acres of land here is a lot less than 100 acres of land in Murfreesboro. I would make, and then just pulling this out of there, but I'd make 30% more money, even paying the same impact fee by building it here. Rutherford County's number 16th fastest growing city in the country. So this hasn't slowed them down in the least. And I just don't see it hurting us either. It might not be a bad idea to slow down a little bit anyhow for a day or two.
My thoughts on this are, as far as the residential assessments, I think it's a necessary evil. I think it's long overdue. We probably should have had one in place the last couple of years. But the part that I'm still looking at is the commercial, the industrial of that part, because I don't want us to not be competitive. It's already a really competitive space, so that's the part.
You know, we can do this and just completely knock out the commercial, the industrial. We don't have to have an impact fee on it at all, if that's what everybody wants to do.
You know, Mark, we discussed in finance, I think is what we discussed it. We talked about anywhere between $1 and $2 on the single family dwellings. And then we talked about as far as industrial and also commercial, you know, maybe getting it down to 80 or 90 cents a foot, you know, which I think, you know, we got to start somewhere. But I don't know exactly what the right formula is, but I think that's the reason we need all of us here before we vote. Something we're not voting on tonight. I realize we're only discussing, but we need to hear the input. I'll shut up, let someone else say
I think that if we'd done $2 per square foot 5 years ago, it wouldn't have kept people from moving here. I don't. Do you, Mark?
I don't think it will now either.
You know, I want you to know, I'm not against this. I'm just saying we need to come up with what figure we're going to use. And what's fair.
It's like Donnie said, it's not fair for the people that have lived in the city of Manchester for years. They have to bear all the burden of all the new construction and cost of all the new infrastructure that's going to come along. in the next 5 to 10 years. And this is an effort to kind of take a little of the burden off of them and put it on the developer. And that just seems like a fair thing to do to me. I don't think anybody here is in disagreement with the fact that we need to do it. And maybe the thing we need to talk about more than anything is the fee that we charge. I mean, and everything's on the table. It's all open for discussion.
Infrastructure costs money.
Costs what, George, $1,000 a foot to pave the road?
Probably a little over about 150 a mile, 150,000.
$150,000 a mile to pave the road? It ain't cheap to do something like that anymore.
I mean, it's getting higher every year.
When you have road, those roads wear out a lot quicker.
More traffic.
Yeah.
We got a plan in place for the schools. That's what we've been waiting on for a long time. To finally get that plan in place. Now let's put a plan in place to pay for it, or at least pay for part of it.
Start.
Yeah.
So we moved it to 50/50. If we know that we're buying the land, and we know that we're gonna have to put money into what Westwood, it's gotta be remodeled, and before we even get there. So that way we can always have a little wiggle room in case we need more for the parks or infrastructure.
Well,
we don't want the children to have school out in the yard or in portables.
here, I know we don't. And that's why we've got 80% of what we're doing going to the school. And that, if you didn't have this, okay, then you're gonna have to spend that money out of our tax revenue, right? To fix the schools, whatever we're gonna do, without this, everything comes out of general fund, out of tax revenue. So if you got this, that frees up some tax revenue to do other things that we need to do. So by having this, and by putting so much of it toward our biggest expense, that turns loose of some money that we can spend for, we can help out that other 20% with that.
I understand that. I thought about that.
Yeah, that's my reasoning, so, you know.
And one thing that I did not talk about either, and I should have, is some cities, some counties that have impact fees also exempt certain things, like public housing development and nonprofit organizations. You know, that's other things that we consider.
Maybe we should do that, it's not a bad idea.
So you're
It's
saying
not cheap. It's not cheap.
Mhm.
Well, Mayor, if you want me to make a suggestion, I know we're not voting on it or taking it off the table tonight, but if some aldermen have ideas they want to incorporate in a proposed ordinance, just let me know. And obviously, it's up to the board to vote on something that they can reach a consensus on. And I can, to use a word my grandfather used, tinker with this ordinance and make it palatable for people.
I like grants for public housing. I mean, I do, I mean,
That's fine.
Manchester Public Housing, Nancy does such a great job.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
There would be more she could put in housing.
You know, Mayor, a lot of people don't realize when our director of schools come up here and told us how much our schools, our classrooms increased every year, and it has been for the last, I forgot how many years he went back and how much it's increasing each year. And so forth, and how quick that these schools is filling up. I mean, we only have 3 schools in our city, and I mean, this is happening. This is something that probably should have been addressed 10 years ago. And nothing ever done. And I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying it wasn't done. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm reading right here the counties that's involved, that's involved in this now, that's in this, that's had this be for years.
Yeah.
It's been doing this. And we're here with nothing. And I want to explain myself. I don't think it's right for the people, again, like I said, that's lived here all their life, to sit here, that some fixed incomes in this town now, that's doing good to get by with what they've got, and us have to raise property taxes. But the bare truth of the matter is, it's come to this, and we got to move forward. And so like Craig said, I think maybe that we need to tinker with this. We need to decide on what we need to come up with, on what's a fair, and what we think's a fair impact tax, and so forth. Move on it, but I think we need to pull forward here to agree on something. Or maybe some other individuals that's involved in the building industry.
So how does everybody else feel about public housing? Exception. Don't have any feeling about that?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's definitely an amendment to consider next time we meet. And it makes sense, it's tax dollars, right? If we charge it to them, then they operate with tax dollars, right? So it's kind of like it's a wash.
So if it's a kind of a consensus, why don't we just have Craig rewrite the ordinance and put that in there? Tinker with it between now and the next meeting. I think it's a good idea. You think it, huh?
And obviously, when you deliberate next meeting, and you can make minor adjustments and amendments to what's proposed and still be voted on. But yeah, I'll do my best to take into consideration what everybody thinks.
You know, there are some grants out there that for 10 years it's public housing, and then it's turned over to the company that it doesn't become, it's not like the same as Manchester Public Housing. Would that be different? But we do have, people can live there at a discounted rate, and they bring it in, but after it's there for 10 years, and after 10 years it goes to the company that started. But for 10 years somebody gets a discounted rate. But
You're talking about like a tax abatement, right?
well, there's a company and
Howard Landing.
Dollar Landing is an example. They got a federal grant. They came in, they built Dollar Landing, and I think after 10 years it goes back to.
Well, ain't the Manchester Housing Authority basically the same situation?
No, it stays in Manchester.
Well, Rivendell, wasn't that right? I think it was.
Rivendell
Yes.
It's been built longer than 10 years.
It's been 20 years in the Judge. I think it's the way it works. Developers come in and build it, and then it reverts back to the Manchester housing.
No, the Manchester Housing Authority has to buy from the developer. Their interest.
Okay, whatever how it works, but it comes back to the Manchester housing. Is that the same thing as the highway?
No,
There's not a governmental, but this makes the suggestion, maybe we put governmental housing authorities. All governmental.
Well, I don't know what that specific
Oh, I know.
definition means, but I'll look at it and see, yeah, if that makes your
But
intent, yeah.
I do know that Manchester Building Authority does a great job, and more houses they can build, God bless them.
So the main thing you got to remember is that the fees and the fee schedule have to be roughly proportional to the burden created by the developments. And so I think that's what you're attempting to do here by your deliberations and your discussion. It's talking about each one of these different categories and how they might affect the need for school growth and infrastructure needs and growth. And so I think we're on pretty safe ground there. You know, it's about need, benefit, and proportionality. And you can actually use impact fees to pay for past infrastructure, current infrastructure, and to use it for future growth. But it has to be, the impact fees have to be utilized in a reasonable amount of time when you collect it, which I don't think would be a problem.
So there's no need sitting here saying nothing. If we're finished, let's finish and go home.
I agree. I'll just close with saying that I agree with the single and multi-family. I'd like to do some kind of study, look more information on industrial. But that's how I feel right now. But any more discussion? If not,
You know, again, it just, I don't want, I mean, you sit here and you look at, and I know we can't use that, and this is just an example, but I can't imagine, here you got $5 and something.
That's Rutherford.
That's rough.
Rutherford City, Murfreesboro City.
You know, that's $500,000 for the permanent building.
Yeah.
You know, we can't go with that example. We're going to have to come up with two figures that works in this city.
We got a different schedule on ours.
Yeah.
A lot different. So, yeah.
Whether what figure it is, and Bob, you have a suggestion?
I wouldn't go say nothing then.
Get you started.
I like the schedule that Attorney Johnson's put out. I don't think it'll hurt any businesses coming in here. I don't think it'll keep anybody from building in here. The exemption for the public housing would be fantastic, that's no problem. But we beat this horse till the horse is fixing to die. If we don't do something and we keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off,
Exactly.
we ain't never gonna get one.
Exactly.
I'm tickled to death with what Attorney Johnson's drawing up here. The fees look reasonable.
And what's the other one, Mark?
$2 a foot for houses, residential, $2 a foot for multifamily. 1 to 10,000 square feet, commercial buildings are $1, or industry, 10,000 to 25,000, 90 cents, 25,000 to 50,000 is 80 cents, and anything over 50,000 is 70 cents with a maximum fee of $100,000.
I think that's just about as reasonable as you can get. There's no way we're gonna sit up here and approve anything if we sit here and wait until everybody's happy and we've took care of Joe's over here, because Joe's building may be a little bigger and Joe don't want to pay that money. Joe ain't the one we're working for. We're working for the city of Manchester, and like Donnie said, every tax dollar we bring, or every impact fee dollar we bring in lessens the amount of tax dollars we have to spend. And I don't see anything wrong with what we got, what Attorney Johnson had written up. I just been sitting here waiting for y'all to get done and go home. Because I'd vote for this right here if it comes to it. No problem at all, because it's reasonable. It's not gouging anybody. And it's taking a burden off our taxpayers. And there's not if I've got enough money to build a 5,000 square foot building, $100,000 ain't gonna keep me from building it. And if I've got enough money to build a $500,000 house, whatever the square footage would be, $2 a square foot, is not gonna keep me from building that house. So I don't think we have to worry about any of this being detrimental to the city as far as any building or any industry that wants to come to Manchester. Now, I do see people not wanting to come to Manchester if we have to skyrocket taxes to pay for the schools, the roads, and whatever we need to do. This is the only place we can get some money paid by the people that are making us need these things. And I think when it's fair, I think it's good, and I'm gonna shut up, and when you all get done, if this comes up, I vote for it. If you change it, I'm gonna vote for it. But I think this is reasonable. We need to quit beating the old mule, because the old mule gonna fall down. We need to get him out of the stall and go to work. I'm done.
Thank you. Any more comments? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved, come on.
Second? You second? Do I hear a second?
He already said.
All approved, say yes.
Absolutely.
Did I hear everybody say yes?
Yes, you did. I heard Donnie say it over here.